Hello and welcome to American Friction, the only US politics podcast that matters, and the podcast that is now an award-winning podcast. I'm award-winning podcast host, Jacob Jarvis.
You are? Why did you look at me?
I know. I just did.
Yeah, fair enough. And I'm an award-winning podcaster, not host, apparently. Says here on the script, just podcaster, but I'm Chris Jones.
And here is award-winning podcast host.
Well, that says host.
Podcaster. I said podcaster. It's written down podcaster for me, and I switched it on the fly. I felt like it. You didn't get demoted.
I mean, squeezed out.
Yeah,
wins an award,
That's why
gets
we're
squeezed out.
award-winning, because we're agile.
But Nikki, award-winning podcast host, who's sticking around? It's Nikki McCann Ramirez. She's here. Hi, Nikki.
Hi, Nikki.
Hello, my fellow award winners.
Congratulations.
This is so great. Congratulations to you, too.
Yeah. So we mentioned it before, dear listeners, that we were nominated for
award-winning
an award.
listeners.
Award-winning listeners,
Yeah,
in
why
fact,
not?
yeah. We told you that we were nominated for an award, but we didn't want to jinx it. But now we can't jinx it.
Can't jinx it.
Because we fucking won.
Because we won it.
We won, and they can never take that from you. So, yeah, we won Best News and Politics Podcast at the Independent Podcast
This isn't
Awards.
Miss Great Britain.
Exactly. They can't take this from anyone. And it's also, it said infinite. The award says in it as well.
Infinite? What does that mean?
It's not just for
It's an infinite
2025,
award.
it's forever.
We are the best
right, yeah.
podcast in perpetuity.
We've just won it.
We've just won it.
Yeah, we've got tenure in the position of award-winning podcast. But
Very
anyway,
good.
thank you to all of you for listening and supporting us. So on to this award-winning show.
Too right.
Trump's less America first and more Trump first at the moment as he steals the limelight on the world stage. As well as discussing that, we'll round up stories you might have missed and answer a silly question from the award-winning Silly Billy. That is Chris Jones. Chris,
Yeah,
shall
welcome. We shall. Welcome back. You're listening to the award-winning American Friction.
Which wins awards. Before we get into it, an appeal for your favourite award-winning podcast. We need your support to keep going. Even though we win awards left, right, and centre, we can't fucking move for awards at the moment.
We can't move for them,
It's
can
a
we?
bit of a nightmare. It's
Waiting
just
through them to get in the
okay,
studio.
Great. Yeah, give us another award. No, medals.
Oh.
I've got boxes of them. But anyway, we would like more. But we're going to have to buy more shelves, basically. So for that, we need money. So that's why we need you to back us on Patreon to help us keep going and buy us more cabinets and shelves and, I don't know, maybe some sort of lockup for our medals as well.
A security system with lasers.
Definitely one of them, like in Resident Evil, the one that cuts
Yeah.
out.
Oh,
one
you
up.
would bring up
That's the
Resident
one.
Evil, wouldn't you?
But for as little as £3 a month, you'll get the show ad-free, and other tiers get you bonus content and merchandise. And in our £5 a month or above tier, we've got a Patreon chat community, which is award-winning, where you can ask us award-winning questions and we can discuss award-winning stuff. Anyway, what are you waiting for? Follow the award-winning link in the show notes to go to patreon.com/American Friction and sign up. Give us some money, please.
Please.
We'd very
Love
much like
money.
that. Nikki, we do love money. Really
Wait,
do.
did the award have prize money?
No.
God damn it.
Yeah, that was would have been a nice touch.
Money's always a nice touch.
But then we're glad there's not money because we'd have donated it to charity anyway.
100%,
Well,
yeah.
actually, that doesn't mean I'm glad because I'd have liked to have donated money to charity, of course.
We still could.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
Anyway.
Anyway. No, we need the money. Don't take our money away that we didn't win. Right. On
dear.
to the show. Patreon.com/American Friction. We need money and we could give it to charity. We probably won't. Nikki, Trump seems to be involved in a lot of global issues at the moment, and he really loves being center stage on the world stage for someone whose whole shtick is being America first. How's his base taking that? Is it kind of going down well, this whole global statesman position he seems to be taking?
I mean, kind of. It's been part of the brand since the first term, this whole idea that even as our allies very clearly are making contingency plans for, the rise of China, the decline of the United States is sort of like the unipolar superpower. As it becomes clear that organizations like NATO and the EU are all sort of scrambling to figure out what to do with this rogue United States, Donald Trump's base continues to exist that his foreign policy principles have, made the United States respected again. And this whole idea that he's a peacemaker who's ending wars left and right. He's not. The ceasefire between Gaza and Israel, or Hamas and Israel, already seems like it's strained. There's been just a series of really horrific articles published over the last couple months about how the United States' cuts to foreign policy aid are actively killing tens of thousands of people all around the world. Republicans, again, view Trump as this sort of like deified, God-anointed figure. And part of what they are celebrating is this idea that the United States is taking a more punitive stance toward other nations, is taking this sort of, I am the boss. If I tell you to pay the tariffs, you pay the tariffs. If I tell you to end this conflict, you end the conflict. That one's a little more tenuous. But what they are celebrating is this concept of a strongman leader who just waltzes into the room and art of the deal style gets what he wants. What I think most of the base is willfully blind to is that a lot of what Trump is getting out of these countries can be, kind of flattened down at a very base level to like bribes and appeasement.
Yeah, exactly.
We saw it in the first term where foreign governments would be like, yeah, totally. We're going to invest all this money in the United States. We're going to build this factory. And then like Trump left office and that investment never came. But it does give Trump the opportunity to get on TV and brag about how such and such country has, pledged $2 billion to whatever industry. And countries know that as long as they kind of like give Trump a little rope and say like, yeah, totally, man, like we're doing this, we're doing that, we're going to have this partnership, he'll kind of stay off their back and they can avoid more severe interactions with him. And I think one of the reasons Trump is enjoying his time abroad so much is that whereas in the United States, he does have to deal with an opposition that is increasingly coming from like popular movements against him. This Saturday, there are massive planned protests all across the United States, another iteration of the No Kings protest movement. Abroad, the thing he's dealing with is world leaders like dropping to their knees and unzipping his pants to try and get on his good side. It's just like most people at these international gatherings are just like tasting leather from the amount of bootlicking and just slobbering over the American president, because they know that if they make the American president feel good, the American president might not penalize them or might give him a break when it comes to the next round of tariffs. And Trump loves that because he loves being praised and he loves being told that he's a good boy. And, what does it really get the United States? Not much. But it's making him rich.
It's always interesting seeing just how much of we've spoken about this before, how much of a kind of choose your own adventure politician Donald Trump is because it's so hollow and vapid, kind of everything he does. As you say, that his base can just project whatever they believe to be what they want upon him.
Yeah.
And he can kind of make it fit. He's just a little bit of a mirage because he can say, well, this is all America first, actually, because I'm shutting it down and then I'm getting us the hell out of there. But then also, if you're one of these kind of more old school Republicans who's gone his way, rather than going the never Trump route, you can say, well, look at America on the world stage. We're the best country ever that's bringing peace to the world and all of this. And you can just retrofit whatever your opinion is upon him, which is quite useful for him. I mean, the fawning over him, Nikki, that time cover, and we can get into how he was a bit...
Oh my God, the vagina.
Yeah, the
Nussy.
vagina neck time cover. So anyone who hasn't seen the cover of Time magazine, it's a very fawning sort of front page to Donald Trump with a full page picture of him that even he has had to concede, oh yeah, it was they wrote nicely about me for once, but
his neck looks like a pussy.
Yeah, there's that. It's just completely that for the neck, and then the sun has like disappeared his hair, and it's just
he looks
terrible.
Very bold.
His hair looks like it's floating. It's really quite the achievement.
It's quite strange. But what Well, the point I was getting to, other than just the sort of the fanny neck, Nikki, was just that it felt a bit over the top to me from time doing it. Although then I did see a lot of people reminding the world that once upon a time, one of Time's People of the Year was Adolf Hitler. So hey, they like throwing bastards on their front page and saying good shit about them. But
you'll be on there soon, then, won't you? 1-0 me.
Fucking likening me to Hitler less than 10 minutes into the pod.
I'm just saying I know you.
Yeah.
Jarv is this podcast's Adolf Hitler.
Whoa! I didn't quite say that.
An award-winning one at
Very
that.
good. Well saved.
But Nikki, it does feel like it's just all very fawning, isn't it? And has the media once again disappointed us here?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's just like an abandonment of like any sort of critical thinking. The headline for that Time cover story was his triumph, and I think I talked about this last week, where I do not consider it a victory for the American president to be a participant, because he was one participant in a series of parties in ending a war and a genocide that he was actively funding and arming.
Yeah.
To me, I don't see that as peacemaking. I don't see that as, a great triumph of statesmanship and masterful negotiations. I see that as politics. I see that as people who have been, parties like Trump, like Bibi Netanyahu's government, like Hamas, who have seen this war extend itself for 2 years now. Tens of thousands of people are dead and dying. There is an active famine. The conditions in Gaza have been deemed a genocide by multiple international organizations and the International Criminal Court. And the situation is untenable. And the reality is that all of these parties had the ability, particularly the United States and Israel, to end those conditions at any point in time. And I really do believe that the only reason we got to the ceasefire is because Israel, among the many mistakes it's made the mistake of bombing Qatar. And now you risked really destabilizing wide swaths of the region because Qatar was pissed off about being bombed by Israel. And I think that's the point where the United States says, okay, we can't do this anymore. And we finally get to a ceasefire. But that ceasefire is incredibly tenuous. Again, there's been dozens of ceasefires between Hamas and Israel in the last several decades, not to mention the amount of false starts we've had in this war, in this outbreak of conflict alone. And you already saw Israel saying that, we didn't get enough bodies of the hostages back, so we're going to half the aid that we allow into Gaza, which isn't a punishment against Hamas. It is collective punishment against Palestinians living in Gaza, Palestinians who are already experiencing famine. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend that we had like an Armistice Day style peace deal crafted by the very same people that were creating the conditions that require the ceasefire.
Completely. I don't know why there just seems to have been this complete lack of critical thinking or interrogation from massive amounts of the media who are just saying, he's secured peace, when you think it's simply let's hope that some of the most acute and extreme conditions of the situation are ended for the foreseeable future. But this situation is by no means resolved. And as you say, Donald Trump, I don't think can suddenly say that he has valiantly done this and this was the soonest opportunity.
Yeah. And the way the deal came together was not so much like, okay, let's sit the parties all down and figure out what we want. It was Hamas saying, we're kind of willing to concede to this. And I think from the reporting I've seen, the United States didn't really loop in Israel until later in the process. And the U.S. just kind of said, you're willing to agree to that? Okay, cool. Let's go with that. And then later on, we'll figure out the other shit. It wasn't like hard negotiations anyway.
Chris, there was quite a weird press conference from Donald Trump around this, which was so there's a load of world leaders who apparently were there within 20 minutes notice which can't be true because it takes more than 20 minutes to get to the United States. But anyway,
That's it.
they
Half an hour at least.
I reckon I'd jog it in 40.
You're pretty fast as
but
well.
I'm quite quick.
You ran a half marathon.
I did, guys. Listeners, if you want to talk about half marathons with me, no one else does. So drop us a message and we can chat about it because I really would like to chat with people. But there were some weird moments.
Yeah, there were.
Where he said, "I'm the only one who matters" at one point, which was that was in regards to Viktor Orban, wasn't it? He was saying how sound Viktor Orban was, and he was like, "Some people might not agree with me, but I'm the only one who matters." And it was quite weird. But what stood out to you?
Yeah, well, there was that bit where he said, a lot of people don't like him, but I like him and I'm the only one that matters.
It's like, I might steal that line, but also, to be fair, I might take that.
Stood in front of them all as well when he said that. He's just fucking shameless. It's unreal. But then he went on to thank, almost all of the world leaders that were stood around him. And then there was a strange moment with Shehbaz Sharif, who's the Pakistani prime minister, who he was called forward by Trump to make a little speech. I'm not sure if it was off the cuff. It didn't seem like it was because he had a bit of paper with him that he seemed to read off. But at one point he turned to him and he said that Trump was a man of genuine peace and wanted to nominate him basically said he should have won the Nobel Peace Prize. And then he said, I quote, "You're the man this world needed at this point in time." And Trump afterwards, I think, when he was talking about it, said that Sharif got very emotional when he was talking about Trump and basically trying to show that these world leaders really revere him and this almost like king-like, godlike kind of status. Yeah. He lashed out at Norway at one point.
Oh, yeah.
He said...
Fucking Norway,
What happened, Norway? What happened? Which was basically after I think they snubbed him for the Nobel Peace Prize. The person who actually won it, who was the opposition leader in Venezuela, actually then went in and devoted the award to Donald Trump, I think, which, pleased him massively, as you can imagine. And then I can't not mention the Starmer moment as well. I don't know if you've seen this.
I have.
But it was pretty pitiful. It was really quite embarrassing. He said, "Where's the United Kingdom?" And then the reply, I thought, actually was immediately awful. And people haven't jumped on this, really, his reply. He said, "Right behind you, as usual." That was Starmer to Trump before he walked forward. Yeah. Weird in many ways. And then there was a really
behind you.
There was a really bizarre exchange between them when this hadn't happened really with anyone else. He called Starmer forward. He kind of stepped away from the mic a little bit and he said, "It's nice you're here." I can't do his voice. He said, "It's nice you're here. Is everything all good?" And Starmer was like, "Yeah, everything's all good." And then he just turned away from him and left Starmer kind of just facing him as if he'd called one of his minions towards him and then he was just done with him. Didn't feel the need to excuse him, just turned his back and Starmer had to walk back and just kind of skulkily walk away, and the look on his face wasn't great, but it made him look really, really quite weak.
I thought it was a lot of his interactions were very strange and just showed how he was just completely his disregard for all of them. Like the lack of it. It's like basically you have to be kissing my ass or
it's a humiliation ritual.
Yeah,
it really is just he likes to see people flagellate themselves in front of him and just be like, ha ha ha, I don't even like you that much.
Yeah. And there was one more moment as well that really kind of showed his colours, especially when it comes to women, is when he turned to Italy's Meloni and he called her beautiful and he was like, "You don't mind being called beautiful, do you?" And it's just like, what? Why do you have to reduce her down to objectify her in that way?
Well, it wasn't even just that. It was him saying, like, in America, you can't call anyone beautiful. Like, making a whole thing about, like, oh, if I said this to you in America, I'd be canceled. Yeah. Dude, you bragged about sexually assaulting women on camera in the 2016 campaign, and it didn't matter.
Yeah. The whole press conference was very strange. Just the way they were lined up behind him to begin with was weird. And it sets him up to be this godlike figure, this world leader, which I don't quite know how we've got there.
The hot mic moment with Mark Carney as well. Did you see that? Where,
what happened there? I can't quite remember
Mark
that.
Carney was like, "Oh, I like that you promoted me to president," and Trump just goes, "Well, at least I didn't call you governor." And it's like, whoa, yeah,
Okay.
not nice.
What?
Not nice for Canada, anyway. But Nikki, there was another weird moment, and this gets us a little into. Just, I'd be curious to know the across the pond view on Starmer a little bit. But there was where Huckabee, basically, who I believe is he envoy to Israel at the moment?
Yeah, he's ambassador to Israel.
Ambassador to Israel, right? So he insulted the UK because Bridget Phillipson, it was, I believe, was talking about the deal and saying how involved we were, and he basically tweeted saying Britain were no use in this whatsoever. And then Witkoff, not long after that, sort of had to put out a post saying how great Jonathan Powell had been and saying, oh, actually, yeah, Britain are really good. And I was reading into that apparently some people are suggesting maybe Trump put a bit of pressure on Witkoff to post that, because it seems like Trump basically does really like Starmer, but nobody around him does. Have you got any read of what's going on there?
I mean, again, I think it's a humiliation ritual. Starmer, I think, to the people around Trump is very clearly a more liberal-leaning politician, not aligned with sort of the America First vision of the United States. But I think from what I've observed in like the visits to Scotland, the visits to the UK, the trip he had to meet with the king recently, Starmer has been very good at just rolling out the red carpet.
Yep.
He's willing to sit there and let Trump ramble at him about the gold sconces he had installed in his fancy golf club. And he's like, yes, sir, that's so great. And it's a little pathetic, as Chris was saying. It's kind of pathetic how deferential he comes off sometimes to Trump. And I don't necessarily see the tangible gain for the United Kingdom. But I do think it makes Starmer's life easier to not have to deal with the angry version of Trump and maybe have to deal with people like Mike Huckabee saying, oh, you know, the UK wouldn't have won World War II if this guy was in charge at the time. That's something a lot more dismissible than having the man who's trying to exercise the power to just like tax the rest of the world for any product they send to the United States, upset with you or mad at you or viewing you as an enemy.
Yeah, I think on the British read, and I don't know what you think to this, Chris, but it seems to me that Starmer is doing pretty badly over here, and I think there's just a level of like he is doing anything to avoid more pressure, criticism, issues for himself. And I don't know how he might have behaved with Trump had he been riding high in the polls in Britain right now, and maybe he might have some more leeway there. But to me, it just seems like Labour and Starmer are pretty screwed at the moment, and therefore picking a fight of any kind over anything with Donald Trump is just not worth it for him, really. Well, to his mind, anyway.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, I'd pretty much agree with that. The only other thing I would say there is, although, you know, staying busy mates with the US is a strong move, you've also got to consider what is that doing to the base of voters that Starmer has and what Labour has and had picked up from the Conservatives, who frankly fucked it over the past 14 years.
Then you now look at the Greens, the Liberal Democrats, both been more punchy on Trump. I do think it might be one of those things that, I don't know. I think Starmer seems to have handled Trump in a fashion, and in a fashion which has worked. It looks a little bit pathetic from my view, but he's managed him relatively well.
Yeah, that's true.
But I don't know if that will, in the long run, pay off for him. But Chris, based on polling anyway, how do Americans feel about all of this?
They feel pretty, I think it's fair to say, pretty positive about the peace deal. So there was a poll from YouGov and The Economist which asked 1,622 adults. God, that's a lot of adults. They asked this question: do you approve or disapprove of the recent peace deal between Israel and Hamas? 53% said they approve, 7% don't approve, and 40% say they're not sure, which is quite a large amount. Interestingly, the number of people that support this and voted Harris in stifling a yawn there, are you? Very good.
No.
Sorry to be boring you. Fucking prick. Voted Harris in 2024. Is also above 50%. So people who voted Harris even kind of support this deal. But I think largely what we're seeing, just before you come in, Nikki.
Okay.
I think largely what we're seeing, and I would expect this to be pretty like polling like this to be quite across the board. I'm really struggling to talk now.
Across the board.
I'd expect most countries to be like this because I think there is a desperation to end this conflict, and they'll kind of hang on to any shred of hope to create peace in between Israel and Gaza that they can. And this seems like the most tangible one at the moment because it's the one that's been force-fed into our news feeds, really. So I think that's kind of what we're seeing on this polling. Nikki, if you please.
Me. I forgot what I was going to say.
Well, whilst Nikki's trying to remember her thoughts, I've got another thought that I've just remembered is that 40% in that polling, that 40% of people that aren't sure, I think that is also a reflection of how complicated these processes can be and how many nuances there are when it comes to making peace between two sides that have been a part of a conflict that has been going on so long. And also because, we don't see the conversations that go on behind the scenes. And I think, a lot of people just don't necessarily understand what actually this deal stands for. So that's probably why you're seeing a lot of people that are unsure about whether they approve of this or not, to be honest.
Yeah, it's one of them where I think the polling can struggle to pick up the nuance of people's feelings towards it, because I imagine maybe there are some people in the don't know camp who aren't people who would argue that, and I don't think anyone would argue that this isn't a positive step, but that is all it is. It's a step towards something more that has to happen. And, the sort of discussion around the idea of there being, what I think most people would like to reach at some point, which would be like a two-state solution, that seems incredibly far away at this point. And that is so, there's been a step in the right direction. I hope that a lot of the suffering will start to end all around. And I'm sure people are pleased by that. But I think it is quite hard to give a binary answer at the same time. I mean, Nikki, just wrapping up on the sort of Trump side of it, is this partly that he just wants attention, really, is why he's bragging about it so much? But also, this whole global thing he's doing, is it also kind of laying the groundwork or building upon the groundwork that there's quite a lot of anyway, of just his family's global grift that they're carrying out?
I mean, it's both. They're definitely making a shit ton of money off of foreign investments. Technically, it's all legal because it's not going directly to Trump's bank accounts. It's going to his son's bank accounts. And it's horrific. And I think I've said it before. It's one of those things that there probably won't be any justice for it. But the fact that the office of the American presidency has just been turned into a cash cow by this family will have long-lasting, incredibly damaging repercussions for the health of this nation, which is already seemingly in like a terminal spiral. And yeah, definitely it's attention. It's attention-seeking behavior by a narcissist. But also, I think right now Republicans kind of need a win. We're going to get into it a little more in depth in the roundup, but we record on Thursdays. It's day 16 of the shutdown. It looks like by the time this podcast goes out, the shutdown will enter day 17. Republicans are battling a lot of pretty negative attention at the end of this year, going into 2026, a midterm year. There's all this controversy and all this backlash to the healthcare cuts. Obviously, like the Epstein scandal is not a vote motivator, but it's definitely bad press. And you have a vision of Trump and Republicans as a ever-increasing accelerationist authoritarian party that's cracking down on free speech, brutalizing innocent people in American cities. And I think right now what Trump really wants is a win. Like, one thing we know about him is he absolutely hates negative press. He pays attention to what people are saying about him, and it pisses him off when he doesn't feel like he's being lauded and celebrated in the way he thinks he deserves. And as much as Republicans and in the Trump era seem to disdain foreign policy and disdain soft power abroad, right now, for this like brief moment, it feels like this is the only place where they think they can spin up a positive narrative. And I think that's why they're behaving the way they are.
So obviously we've got a few famous listeners like Gavin Newsom. Hey Gav,
Yeah,
hope
hey, Gav,
you're
you're
good.
right, mate.
But if Trump wants to get some tips on winning, have a listen to this podcast because it's
Yeah.
award-winning.
Yeah, too right.
And we can welcome him to the Winners Club, which we were all inducted in
We were.
last night. So yeah, Trump, have a listen. Gavin, tell some of your right-wing friends to tell Trump
He's
to
got
listen
lots
to
of them,
American
hasn't he?
Friction.
Yeah.
He's got tons. Now let's round up some stories that you might have missed. I don't know, you might have missed these, you might not have missed them, and if you haven't, we'll just expand a little bit for you anyway. But Nikki, the shutdown, so we mentioned this in the first half, but is it basically the same old, just completely immovable objects, both sides?
Yeah. This is a long one, and it feels like it's gonna stay shut down for a little bit longer. We're kind of in the mid-game phase of shutdowns where clearly the parties don't seem like they're approaching a resolution to fully fund the government, to fully pass a continuing resolution or a new budget. So what kind of tends to start happening right now, and what we see happening right now, is the party in control, Republicans in this case, will start picking out individual funding bills, because really the funding package is comprised of like over a dozen funding bills. We'll start picking out individual bills and start saying, okay, what if we just pass this one? So for example, what they're doing right now is they're trying to get the Pentagon funded, because if you fund the Pentagon, the military starts getting paid, because right now members of the military aren't getting paid. Trump signed an executive order authorizing payments for the military a couple days ago, but there's kind of a question about if he can even do that, because theoretically it's Congress that authorizes that kind of thing. And it just goes back to this whole battle that's taking place right now about the executive branch trying to dictate congressional funding that is supposed to be under the control of Congress.
You mentioned also earlier, Nikki, the big old protests which are going to be happening this weekend.
No kings.
Yeah, no kings. How big are they? Give me a liken it to an amount of football pitches or something. How big are we talking?
Oh my God. I don't,
And when he says football, he means soccer.
Yeah, soccer
Okay.
yeah, no,
pitches,
that's what I thought. Excuse
God.
me.
which I think is kind of similar to a football pitch.
I don't actually
But
know.
like, okay, in this one case, actually, I think the American football field pitch measurement is more instructive than football soccer, because there is no standardized size for a football pitch. Whereas American football, it is 100 yards by I don't know how many yards.
That is true. She's got a point there.
I'm confused.
So in soccer ball,
Soccer ball.
so teams can have different size pitches.
Well,
You see
it
that?
has to be within
There
parameters.
are parameters, sure.
No, there's parameters, but they
in
differ.
NFL, it has to be an exact
Right,
size. 'cause
okay,
play
with
to
you there.
yards.
Yep, nice.
So it has to be.
See, okay.
100
Anyway,
yards.
but I don't. In terms of people, I don't know how many we can stuff in how many football stadiums. What I do
Okay.
know is that the last No Kings protest, the estimate of turnout all across the country and internationally was between 4 and 6 million people, and they are pretty sure that this one's going to be bigger.
Okay.
Whoa.
Nice.
Yeah, there's 2,500 planned events across the United States and abroad.
Where are the biggest? Where are the ones we should be focusing on? And what's the vibe around all this at the moment?
Probably, I'd say like DC, Los Angeles, and Chicago are going to be some of the biggest.
Okay.
The vibe in general, I actually watch the feeds. I have a piece about this coming out soon. I think today. But I have spoken to some organizers who are essentially saying that No Kings is a peaceful protest movement. That is at the center of their philosophy. Really what they are doing and saying is we have a First Amendment right to oppose authoritarianism in our country. We are the United States. We're not the fucking UK. We don't have a monarch, and we'd like to keep it that way. Oorah.
Hoorah.
But essentially, they are insisting that this is a peaceful protest movement. The last No Kings events have been very peaceful, non-incidental. It was just a lot of people marching and giving speeches and mostly holding out funny signs. And the Trump administration and Republicans in response are really trying to brand these protests as like hate America rallies. That's what Mike Johnson and people in Congress are calling them, which is not the case in the slightest. But also some Republicans have straight up said that this is part of like a terrorist movement, which is, again, psychotic rhetoric to be coming out of the ruling party. And you can't have that outside of the context where Trump in the last 3 weeks has said that Democrats are a gnat over his shoulder that needs to be taken care of, and that the country is being like overrun by quote unquote enemy combatants. In the context he was talking there, he was referring to Democrats, and that he regretted that they weren't actual militants in uniforms because you could just kill militants in uniforms. And then of course, it's insane. And then of course, a lot of these protests will be taking place in cities where the Trump administration has already deployed the military to crack down on dissent and freedom of speech and freedom of expression in democratic cities, places like Chicago, places like LA, places like Washington, D.C. So it feels like this round of No Kings protest is going to be bigger, but the stakes are also higher. And like we talked about in last week's episode, I wouldn't be surprised if the Trump administration tries to find an excuse to potentially hurt these protesters. And I really hope that does not happen. But it is very scary to know. And it's also extremely commendable and very brave of the people who are coming out to these protests to know that you are doing this because you are exercising your First Amendment right. And the context you may be placed in is one where the government you are protesting already has stormtroopers in your city that they are prepared to use against you. That's like a very scary thought.
There's another scary thing that's going on is Pete Hegseth, and he is joining in on this crackdown on the media, isn't he, Chris? So this whole loyalty oath kind of thing he wants to get media outlets to sign. What's going on there?
Nikki, pick me up if I've missed anything here, because there's quite a bit. But essentially, I think what is happening is that he's trying to crack down on press freedoms when it comes to what the press can actually report from the Pentagon, and when it comes to the military, and quite widely, let's be honest, the government. Let's face it. For example, one of the things that this new rule book, I guess, says is DOW information must be approved for public release by an appropriate authorizing official before it is released, even if it is unclassified.
Yeah, he's basically saying that, like, the Department of War, not the Department of War, has to get first dibs on scoops, basically.
Yeah, which is
just fucking stupid.
It is, because that's not a free press. Nikki, please.
Yeah. I think you've got all that right. The big thing here is Pete Hegseth and other members of the Trump administration, to be fair, have been obsessed with this idea of like purging leakers, especially in the Department of Defense. Department?
No, I was just laughing at the irony of the word leakers when it comes to Hegseth.
No, exactly. The call is coming from inside the fucking house. Like this is the same man who added the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic into a group chat where he discussed plans to bomb Yemen. Let's not forget that. But a lot of reporting in general is based on sources. You have people who you know and talk to who give you information. And one of the big principles of ethical journalism is when you interview someone, when someone gives you a source quote, obviously you operate within parameters about what's on the record, what's off the record, what's on background, but you don't then go back and tell the source like, hey, I'm going to publish this. Is this okay? Do you want to like read it and check it before I publish it? That's not how this works.
No.
And one of the things that Chris didn't know that happened today is that a huge contingency, I think most of the Pentagon press corps staged a walkout today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Even Fox News signed on to the open letter saying, we're not signing this media policy. And if you want to kick us out, kick us out. But I mean, I think it's not the first time in the second Trump administration that we've seen something like this happen. The Associated Press refused to refer to the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America, and they were kicked out of the White House for a while. They had to go through the courts to get their press access back. And I think all of this really does tie back to why movements like No Kings Matter, to why you need to be battling out these things in the courts and still resisting, even if it seems like Republicans have control of every institution, because at the end of the day, like the moment you lose your rights is kind of when you give them up, when you decide to say, okay, I'm just going to comply with what this authoritarian is saying. And the Trump administration is really operating as if the press corps is something that they can control. And they really are. And you can see it especially in the press briefings when they bring in like people like Benny Johnson to act as if they were White House correspondents and to cosplay media reporters and lob little softball questions about like, Caroline Leavitt, why are you so pretty? Oh, Caroline Leavitt, why are the Democrats evil? It's like, it's a clown show, but it's also incredibly insidious because the fourth estate, the press, is supposed to be the thing that keeps institutions accountable. They're supposed to be the ones who shed the light on the bullshit, who, help the whistleblowers, who put out the information that needs to be put out there. And it's abundantly clear that the Trump administration is trying to constrain the press's ability to do that.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I couldn't quite get my head around with what Hegseth was saying was one of the things he tweeted. And he said the press must now wear badges around the Pentagon. Doing that anyway.
They do that anyway.
They cannot roam free, which isn't really that true anyway. And then he said credentialed press will no longer be permitted to solicit criminal acts. I'm not.
Because he's suggesting that leaking is a criminal act. I think is his point.
Yeah, but it doesn't really happen, to be honest. And when it does, it happens because people come forward and talk. But then I also think we should know is we should probably remind ourselves of what the First Amendment actually says. Which says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press.
Also, I do think there needs to be a distinction made here between like leaking the criminal act of sharing classified information or like military state secrets with an unauthorized party, which the federal government has gone after people who've tried to do that. Like Edward Snowden is probably one of the most notable examples.
Yeah.
There's a difference between that and someone talking shit about Pete Hegseth to a reporter. That is not a criminal act.
It's illegal to be mean about me.
Yeah, no, it's illegal to be not nice to me to a reporter because I'm the Secretary of War and I'm just a little baby.
Yeah.
But that's what they're trying to conflate here. They're trying to conflate the act of essentially gossip, which is really what most news is just getting really good at confirming gossip. They're trying to conflate that with like the mishandling of classified information that has like actual legal restrictions on it. Pete Hegseth is very mad at the way the press is talking about him. And the reality is that although he came from Fox News, Pete Hegseth was never a reporter, so he doesn't actually understand or is able to internalize.
Yeah. Fox News has basically also said that it's not going to sign up to these rules either, as has the likes of Newsmax, which kind of operates along the same lines, even though they don't get along. But there's a massive amount of media outlets that just aren't signing up to this.
I think the only one who did say they would sign was One American News.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can trust them.
Yeah, totally.
Nikki,
there's like two chicks there who are always mad at me because I called them out on hiding their affiliation on TikTok.
Oh no. Well, leave Nikki alone, you two, if you're listening.
She's an award winner now.
Nikki, I wanted to ask you very quickly about these. This is a really weird one. These young Republicans, which is like a group, the Young Republicans, isn't it? I don't just mean some random Republicans who happen to be young. The Young Republicans, and this whole racist text scandal, which J.D. Vance has just really rushed to try and be like, hey, kids will be kids, as if all kids are racist. And also I think the people in the Young Republicans are like 30 or something anyway. So
yeah.
they're just not children, and children aren't all racist too. So
the first thing here is that young Republicans is a bit of a misnomer. Young Republicans accepts members from the ages of 18 to 40. So let's just start there. And the fact that the floor is adults. 18 means that even though your prefrontal cortex might not be fully formed, none of these people are legally children.
Yeah.
And to be clear, if your child is tweeting to their friends, everyone who votes no goes to the gas chambers, I love Hitler, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That child is not being raised right.
Yeah.
You have a little racist.
Yeah.
It's so rich for the same people who are like, at this current moment, I think yesterday, Wednesday, DHS put out a Twitter thread of all the people whose visas they revoked for saying mean things about Charlie Kirk after he died. This is the same administration that is, going after people for the softest critiques of the Trump administration. And they're sitting here trying to convince everyone that the people in these group chats talking using the N-word, all sorts of slurs, calling Black people monkeys, are just wee little babies who don't know any better and are not representative of the Republican Party. They're just really small, you guys. And sometimes babies do racism.
Yeah, no, so all babies are racist.
All babies are racist.
Yeah.
But the thing that I was thinking about today, because it just popped up on my feed, is on Wednesday, Trump was speaking from the Oval Office, and he says about Stephen Miller, I want to thank Stephen Miller. I would love to have him come up and explain his true feelings. Maybe not his truest feelings. That might be going a little too far. The notion that the shit being said in this group chat is not even in part reflective of the attitude Republicans in general take toward minorities, toward religious groups, toward Jewish people is absurdist, because you do have people like Stephen Miller, who is fairly explicitly white nationalist, to the point where the president is like, we can't actually let Stephen Miller say what he wants to say because it would be really bad for all of us. It's not a bottom up thing, it's top down.
Yeah.
And all this goes to show is that these youngish Republicans, absolutely feel safe and comfortable saying these things to each other, and they do so with the knowledge that then people like J.D. Vance are going to come out and defend them and say they're just wee little babies who don't know better. It's absurdist. It's absurdist.
Now onto a listener question, and this is from, I don't really know how to pronounce this completely right, so sorry if I'm wrong. Capanosity and function on Blue Sky asks. Capanosity? Capanosity?
Oh, I'm not sure how it's spelled. Can't see
like caper and then nosity.
I'm going to suggest that might be right then.
Yeah, all right, good, thanks.
You're welcome.
Don't think that's their Christian name necessarily, Capanosity and Function, but I like the middle name and, if so. Why, they ask, why is Jamie Raskin never mentioned by anyone as a presidential candidate? For me, he's consistently the best performer in Congress. What am I missing? Nikki, what am I missing? Not me.
I love Jamie Raskin. I've said it before. I interviewed him last year. I consider him to be one of the most intelligent people in Congress. I consider him to be the Congress member who has the most thorough and nuanced understanding of constitutional principles, probably in the U.S. government. He was a constitutional professor and lawyer for a really long time. When you speak to him, he isn't shy about talking about the failures and the holes in our founding documents and why the American project isn't just about adhering to these centuries-old pieces of paper as closely as possible, but that what the framers really created was a system that was supposed to evolve and change and adapt to the needs of its population. And anytime he talks about the Constitution, I recommend people listen. It's always incredibly informative to me. But it's not necessarily a Jamie Raskin problem. It's a getting elected to the presidency from the House of Representatives is really difficult problem. If you look back, just cycle through the Wikipedia pages of Democratic and Republican primaries for the last several decades. Most of the candidates will either have been governors, senators, cabinet members or like really recognizable public figures like Bloomberg. Or like Donald Trump, who was never held political office before he ran for president, but was a household name via his celebrity. Because really, the thing here is that congressional districts represent a very, very small sliver of the American population. Their needs are often hyper-specific to their state and the individual industries in that congressional district. And when you're looking to make the jump from, maybe Congress to the White House, the first thing you want is the ability to tell voters, I represent a big swath of people. I have governed this large territory as an executive. Because when you're a member of Congress, you're also not really an executive. If you're governor, you're like the baby president. You govern your state. If you're a cabinet secretary, you're overseeing national policy. If you are a senator, you're not governing your state, but your constituents are the entire population of your state. Yeah. So it's not necessarily that Jamie Raskin isn't qualified or capable or wouldn't make a wonderful president. There are just built-in logistical hurdles to running from House of Representatives to the presidency that make it very, very difficult to successfully campaign.
Yeah. I also think it's a shame that the Democratic bench is so shallow that, for example, I think Jamie Raskin could be very competent in that role, but at the same time, I think he's really, really valuable in Congress. Yeah. And it's a real shame that it looks like there's just not enough talent to not be sort of stealing away from sort of other areas, really.
And I also recommend, not to plug myself, but I recommend people read my interview with him because he does talk about, I think I may have asked him why he wasn't considering running for the Senate or whatever. And he loves Article 1 of the Constitution. He loves the House of Representatives. Yeah. I think for a person who is very service-minded, has been very service-minded their entire lives, I think a lot of politicians, especially in our age of corporate politics, just see the House of Representatives as a stepping stone to other things, as a place where you're not supposed to stay. You're supposed to go and then you're supposed to run for the Senate or your governorship or something else. Jamie Raskin, I feel, is one of those people who really sees his position in the House as where he wants to be, and he loves doing it, and he appreciates the specific powers granted to the House of Representatives that are unique and completely different from any other office in the country and are often undersold to the population. So, I don't know. I also think he's quite happy where he is.
Yeah. Silly question time then. Chris.
Yeah, before I get on to the silly question, if you're watching this video on Spotify or YouTube,
got a silly dog.
Absolutely ridiculous silly dog here on the pod. Cheese.
Yeah. Cheese.
Just really lapping up the attention.
Needs a head stroking. Well,
that's nice, isn't it? That's good.
We
love
cheese.
Silly question. It's quite a straightforward one.
Yeah.
Who's the best actor that you don't like, but you have to recognise that they're actually really good?
I'm going to come out here straightforwardly and be obviously Kevin Spacey. Like that.
Actually, that's a really good answer.
Okay.
Obviously,
okay. So
I know what you mean. You're not talking about completely cancelled ones.
I'm not talking about controversies. I'm talking about you don't really like them, but you can recognise that they're a very good actor.
Yeah. So for me, I'm going to come out with a weird one here. People will dislike Chalamet. Timothy Chalamet.
He's
obviously good, and he's been in some stuff that I really like. I really liked Call Me by Your Name. I really liked Bones and All, which a lot of people didn't like. I'm not a Dune fan. Don't come at me, both of you. I know you're going to talk about the fucking jihad or some shit. But I know some.
The Butlerian jihad.
Some shit like that in the box with the. Do not like that film. No interest in it at all.
Well, which one? There's 3.
Any of them. Any of them. But yeah, so Chalamet. Yeah, he just.
Fair.
I'm just like, And then sometimes I'll see him and think, maybe he's kind of cool. But then I'm like, but.
There's something frustrating about his face, isn't there?
He just seems a bit annoying. And I swear he's not quite a Nepo baby.
Y'all just hate quirked up little Frenchmen, is what I'm getting.
Yeah. I also just then he just was like, and now I'm going to be with a Kardashian. It's like, what?
Fair
Well,
play.
he was always like, I'm so
I don't know.
cool.
Sounds like jealousy. If you
Yeah,
ask
it does
me.
sound like a lot of jealousy coming from your direction.
Nah, I just think like, I'm like, who are you, man? Who are you, Timothy Chalamet? Be honest to us,
Okay.
you.
Well, Nikki, what about you?
This is hard.
It's not that odd.
Actually, I just saw one battle after another, and Sean Penn was really good in it, but I don't like Sean Penn.
Oh, really?
Also, Saoirse Ronan, did I say that right?
Think so, yeah.
Saoirse Ronan, yeah.
Yeah. Like, she's a great actress. I don't know why. I just, don't vibe.
Fair.
Also, Florence Pugh, same thing. Great actress. Don't vibe.
Oh, really? I like Florence Pugh
Take
a lot.
that back.
Yeah, that's...
She is a
I don't
lovely
know.
woman.
No, I'm sure she's a lovely woman. It's just I like her movies. I love Midsummer. I love her films. I just I don't know. It's the same thing with Sean Penn, where I'm outside of the film context, I'm just I don't know what your deal is.
Yeah. I
gotta think of another dude to balance it out.
Fair enough. Simon, you go next. Why not? Producer Simon.
Sure. I mean, I don't have personal dislike for any
Oh,
particular
grow a
actors.
spine. Fucking
but
hell.
I'm going to go
No,
with...
Simon is right.
I'm going to go
mean.
with one that sort of contradicts your rule,
Oh.
which is Tom Cruise.
No, I
He's-
agree with that. Yeah.
Oh no, I totally
he's-
agree with you. Yeah.
He's got dodgy stuff that he's done.
Oh, big time.
But putting that aside,
Yeah.
the thing that annoys me about Tom Cruise is that he's actually in a lot of really entertaining movies.
Yeah.
All the Mission Impossible ones, you can't deny that.
on screen, he can carry a film almost no one in the world
I just
can.
I resent it when he does. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
hear
watched
you.
American Made last weekend, and I really wanted to hate it, but he was really good in
This
it.
is the thing though with Tom Cruise. It's just I think if you met him in real life, you'd be like, this is one of the worst people I've ever met. He's just so awful. But then on screen, he's just
Incredible.
yeah, he knows how to do it.
Yeah, it's obnoxious. Very obnoxious.
Fair enough.
Chris.
Mine was Jared Leto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
he's been in
seems like a bad person.
I think he's a very bad
as
person.
well, yeah.
But I think he's been in. I think he's been in some bad movies where he hasn't really had much help. Like what was the Marvel?
Morbius.
The Joker
I haven't
thing?
seen that because
Yeah.
everyone said it was so bad.
Morbius is quite hilariously bad. It's almost worth a watch.
But he's so good in things like Dallas Buyers Club, for example.
Yeah.
Like films like that, Fight Club as well.
Oh, he's
I think
very talented.
He's an incredible actor, I
Requiem
think.
for a
But yeah,
Dream.
no, I don't really vibe with him. Don't think he's the
30
greatest guy.
Seconds to Mars, I can imagine you liking though.
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah. Can't bring
Okay.
me down.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, go on, Chris, get going.
Bury me, bury me.
I'm not falling for you.
Oh, that was a difficult note to listen to.
I'm like, yeah.
Okay.
Right, and on that brings us
That
to
note.
the end of another award-winning episode of the award-winning podcast, American Friction. Thank you, award winner, Nikki.
Thank you to my award-winning team and to you, award-winning listener. This award is also your award.
Yeah.
Chris, you're an award winner. Put it there, son. Real nice, real nice.
Thank you, award-winning Jarv.
Yeah, thank you. And Simon.
Thank you.
Simon, you're the real award winner here because, as we've expressed, we do not be speaking in full sentences.
Oh no! Or singing
of the time.
in
None
gym.
of us speak English,
No, yeah.
actually.
It's very kind. Although this whole thank you session is making me think, did we really deserve that award?
No.
Yes, we did.
We did.
No, we did.
Yes,
did.
we
Yeah.
did.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry, we did. Yeah.
I didn't think we were going to win it, but I always thought that would be an injustice. And I'm glad that an injustice has not been done. Because I see injustices all the time in this world, and it's not
All right.
It's not justice.
All
It's
right,
not
Batman.
justice that we won, but an injustice was avoided.
Exactly. That's real. Nikki, you put it best.
Jarv's faith in
Thank you.
humanity was hanging by a
Yeah,
thread.
it
and
really
it's been
was.
restored last
I've
night.
seen too many injustices.
Shut up, Batman.
Right.
All right.
Search American Friction Podcast Patreon or go to patreon.com/American Friction directly if you would like to help us out, give us a bit of cash, keep the show on the road. There's a link in the show notes. We're going to have a little bit of an extra chat about our some of our favourite pod memories as well to mark the awards too, so that'll be there. A quick reminder as well, if you can't back us financially, we do get that, but go rate, review and subscribe wherever you're listening to the podcast. I'm Jacob Jarvis, that's Chris Jones, that's Nikki McCann Ramirez, producer Simon, that's his legal name now, is on the edit. This is American Friction. See you later.
See you later, guys. Bye now.
Bye.